All right, now we're going to be talking about the power rule. So whenever you're working with the power rule, it's going to be a little different. So for this one, I don't think I'm going to do the worksheet because I don't have it with me. Uh, I'm using a different worksheet, but it should be the same, exactly the same thing. So to begin with, I'm going to be talking about what the power rule is and how it applies. So before we talk about the product rule, which you have two different things multiplying, in this case, you're going to have a special occasion. So you're going to have something inside of parentheses. And you're going to have an x or a variable or a number. It depends on whatever base they give you. Sometimes you can have a number as a base, and sometimes you can have a variable as a base. So in this case, we're going to have x, and that's going to be my base again. So this guy is going to be the base. And usually you always have a base whenever you have exponents. Then I'm going to have to the exponent of a, right? And then I'm going to have parentheses. And then I'm also going to have an exponent outside, and it's going to be on top of the parentheses. This one's going to be a completely different exponent, right? So whenever you get a problem like this, you're going to have something in parentheses, right? You're going to have an exponent on the inside with a base. And then on the outside, you're also going to have an exponent. So as you can see, I have one exponent and two exponents. What we're going to be doing with those two, instead of actually adding them, we're going to multiply. So, like we always do, you always write your base first every time you do this type of problem. You're going to do A times B. And that's going to be the formula that we're going to be using. This one's going to be called the power rule because we have two powers getting multiplied together. There we go. This one's going to be called the power or the power rule. Now, one of the examples I want to give you, I'm going to give you a number example just to show you a little bit of what we're doing. So I'm going to have, let's say I have the number 5. Okay, number 5 has an exponent of 3. And then on the outside, we're going to have an exponent of 2. Okay, so in this case, my base is going to be the number 5. Right? Even though it's a number, that's going to be my base. Now, that only works whenever I have, I'll explain right now some differences that you might see on the assignment, but for the time being, my 5 is going to be my base. It doesn't always have to be that number is a base, but usually variables are usually a base. But before I get anybody confused, so we're just going to, that's our base, so I'm going to rewrite our base. So 5 is going to be my base. And then what's my first exponent? My first exponent is going to be 3. And my second exponent is going to be 2. So I'm going to write 3 times 2. Okay? What's 3 times 2? Obviously is 6. So I'm going to have my base 5 to the power of 6. And that's literally how the power rule works. Okay? Now I'm going to give you a different example. And this one might be a little tricky. So I'm going to give you 2x to the power of 4. And on the outside, I'm going to have the power of 2. Okay? You might be asking, this doesn't look like the problem that we just did, right? You have a number in front of your variable. You see, we have this 2 right here. And a lot of people get confused and what are we supposed to do with the 2, right? I know, we know what to do with the x, right? Because the x has the exponent. This guy has the exponent, and we have an exponent over here, correct? So we know how to work all of that, right? We know how to work that. But we don't know how to work the 2 in front of the variable. So whenever you work a problem like this is what I want you guys to do. I want you to rewrite the problem except for the parentheses. So I'm going to rewrite 2x to the 4th power. Okay? That's the first thing I wanted to do. Now, make sure you look at the arrow I'm about to draw. So, what we're going to do with the number 2, we're going to grab the outside exponent, so this guy right here. That guy, I'm going to grab that guy. And I'm going to take it all the way on top, and I'm going to put it on top of my number 2. Okay, so I'm going to put this right here. So it's going to be 2 to the power of 2. Okay, that's the first thing I want to do. Now, what are we going to do with our x? So, secondly, I want you to, obviously we have an x to the 4th power, right? We have this guy right here. Right next to it, I want you to put a dot because we're going to do multiplication. And we're going to put also the exponent out here. Okay? So I'm going to put a 2 right on top of it. Okay, you see what I did, right? I just dropped, so I'm going to try and visually show this with the parentheses. I'm going to try and use different colors. So I did this, and I put it over here on top of it. And I did this, and I put it on top of this one right here. And I'm going to put the 4 right now. Okay, so basically I'm just bringing down my exponent from the top and I'm putting them right next to whatever I have there. Okay, so now my problem looks like the bottom one, and I'm gonna highlight it so you know what we have so far. This is what we have so far. Now all we have to do is just simplify. I'm gonna work with my variable first, and then I'm gonna work with the number second. So my variable is this one. So what's 4 times 2? 4 times 2 is gonna be x to the 8th power. Okay? Because you always do multiplication whenever you do the power rule. And what is 2 squared? The squared over here basically says that I'm gonna have to multiply 2 by itself twice. So I'm gonna rewrite 2 times 2, which is 4. So I have 4x to the 8th power. Okay? That was one problem, so I'm going to do at least 2 more so I can show exactly how the power rule works. So we have an example right here that looks just like this. I want to use this one. So we're going to have 3. We're going to have x to the 4th power. And we're going to have a variable of 2 on the outside. Okay? Again, like I mentioned previously, I'm going to rewrite the problem, but without the parentheses. Okay? Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring the 2 on top of both of them. So I'm going to have 3, and it's going to have an exponent, right? Because I'm looking at this variable right here, or at this exponent. And I'm going to put it on top of the 3, and I'm going to put a point and right next to the 4. Okay, now I just simplify. So what's 4 times 2? 4 times 2 is 8. And 3 to the 2nd power. So what's 3 multiplied by itself 2 times? So 3 times 3 is equal to 9. So literally that's our answer now. So it's not very hard. All you gotta do, you just gotta make sure you bring the exponent on the outside on top of both of your numbers and letters whenever you're doing this type of problems. Now I'm gonna show one that you do not have anything on top. So and you're gonna have multiple variables. So for example, I got this one right here. I'm gonna have x to the 4th power, y to the 3rd power, and I'm gonna have a variable on the outside of 2. Okay, so in this case, I have 2 different variables, right? I have x and I have y. Now, both of them have their respective bases. For example, this exponent has a base of x, and this exponent right here has a base of y. Just remember that. Okay, but again, like I said previously, first thing that you're gonna do, you're gonna write what you have inside without the parentheses, and then I'm gonna put a dot 2 because that's what the problem says. We're gonna be multiplying our exponents together. So what's 4 times 2 again? It's 8, and 2 times 3 is 6. So my answer is going to be x to the power of 8, y to the power of 6. And that's basically how you do this problem. It's not very hard. It's super easy. So hopefully this helps. That should help you do this assignment. I know the videos were kind of long, but I kind of wanted to do multiple problems so you can see how they're supposed to be done.